There's a financial concept that legendary minds have called the eighth wonder of the world. Albert Einstein himself reportedly said this about it. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in history, has repeatedly emphasized its importance throughout his career. What are they talking about? They're talking about compound interest. And here's what makes this so fascinating. Most people hear about it once, nod their heads, and then completely miss the point of how it actually works in real life. They don't see the invisible force that's either working for them or quietly working against them every single day. Einstein's famous quote goes like this: "Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it." Think about that second part for a moment. If you don't understand compounding, you're not just missing out on gains, you're actively paying the price. You're on the wrong side of the equation. And that's where most people find themselves without even realizing it. So what exactly is compound interest? At its core, it's the process of earning returns not just on your original investment, but also on the returns that investment has already generated. It's interest on interest, growth on growth, returns on returns. It sounds simple when you say it like that, but the implications of this concept are profound, and they unfold over time in ways that most people genuinely cannot visualize until they see the numbers. Let's start with the most basic distinction, because this is where confusion begins. There are two types of interest in the financial world: simple interest and compound interest. And the difference between them isn't just mathematical. It's the difference between modest growth and exponential wealth creation. Simple interest works exactly like it sounds. You invest a certain amount of money, let's say 100,000 rupees. That money earns a fixed rate of return every year, let's say 10%. So every year you earn 10,000 rupees. Year 1 you earn 10,000. Year 2 you earn another 10,000. Year 3, the same. Year 5, the same. At the end of 5 years, you've earned 50,000 rupees in interest. Your total is now 150,000 rupees. The interest is calculated only on the original principal amount. It never changes. It's linear, predictable, safe in a way, but also limited. Now let's look at compound interest using the exact same numbers. You invest 100,000 rupees at 10% annual interest, but this time, the interest you earn gets added back to your principal. So in year 1, you earn 10,000 rupees just like before. But now your principal isn't 100,000 anymore. It's 110,000. So in year 2, when you earn 10%, you're not earning it on 100,000. You're earning it on 110,000. That's 11,000 rupees. Your new total is 121,000. In year 3, you earn 10% on 121,000. That's 12,100 rupees. Your total is now 133,100. Notice what's happening here. The amount you earn is increasing every year, even though the interest rate stays the same. By year 4, you're earning 13,310 rupees. By year 5, you're earning 14,641 rupees. At the end of 5 years, your total isn't 150,000 like it was with simple interest. It's 161,051 rupees. That's more than 11,000 rupees in additional gains, just from letting your returns compound. Now you might be thinking, 11,000 rupees over 5 years isn't that big of a deal. And you'd be right to think that, because 5 years isn't enough time to see the real magic of compounding. The true power doesn't reveal itself in 5 years, or even 10. It reveals itself over decades. And this is the part most people never stick around to experience. Let's extend that same example to 30 years. If you invest 100,000 rupees at 10% simple interest for 30 years, you'll end up with 400,000 rupees. That's your original 100,000 plus 300,000 in interest, because you're earning 10,000 every single year for 30 years. It's a decent return. You've quadrupled your money, but with compound interest over those same 30 years, your 100,000 rupees grows to over 1,744,000 rupees. Not 400,000. Not even close. Over 1.7 million. That's more than 4 times what simple interest would give you. And the only difference is that you let your returns stay in the account and generate more returns. This is what people miss. They see the early years and think compounding isn't that impressive. But compounding doesn't work in a straight line. It works exponentially. The longer you let it run, the more dramatic the results become. In the first 10 years, compound interest might only be slightly better than simple interest. But by year 20, it's significantly better. By year 30, it's incomparably better, and by year 40 or 50, the gap is so enormous that it almost doesn't make sense when you first look at the numbers. Here's why this matters in your actual life. Most people are introduced to the concept of investing in their 20s or 30s, and they make one of two mistakes. Either they don't start at all because they think they don't have enough money to make it worthwhile, or they start but then pull their money out after a few years because they don't see enough growth to justify the wait. Both of these mistakes cost them decades of compounding. And decades of compounding is where life-changing wealth is created. Let's imagine two people. Person A starts investing at age 25. They invest 50,000 rupees per year, every year, for 10 years. Then they stop. They don't add another rupee after age 35. But they leave that money invested and let it compound at an average return of 12% per year. By the time they're 60 years old, that initial 500,000 rupees they invested has grown to nearly 1 crore, 38 lakh rupees. Person B waits until they're 35 to start investing. They also invest 50,000 rupees per year, but they do it for 25 years straight, all the way until they're 60. They invest a total of 12 lakh 50,000 rupees, which is more than double what person A invested. But because they started 10 years later, they only end up with around 1 crore, 6 lakh rupees by age 60. Even though they invested more than twice as much money, they ended up with less wealth. Why? Because they missed out on 10 years of compounding. Those first 10 years were worth more than the next 25 combined. This is the brutal truth about compounding that nobody talks about in a way that makes people feel the weight of it. Time is more valuable than money when it comes to investing. You can always earn more money. You can increase your income, get a better job, start a side business. But you can't create more time. Once a year is gone, it's gone. And every year you wait to start investing is a year of compounding you'll never get back. Let's talk about why people don't start early, or why they don't stay invested long enough. There are a few common reasons, and they all make sense on the surface, but they all lead to the same costly outcome. The first reason is that people think they need a large amount of money to start investing. They believe that unless they have 50,000 or 1 lakh rupees saved up, there's no point in beginning. So they wait. They wait until they have what they consider to be a serious amount. But while they're waiting, they're losing time. And as we've just seen, time is the most important ingredient in the compounding formula. The truth is, you can start with very small amounts. Even 5,000 rupees a month invested consistently will grow into a significant sum over decades. The size of your initial investment matters far less than how long you stay invested. The second reason people delay is that they want to time the market. They think they should wait for the right moment to invest. Maybe they're waiting for the stock market to crash so they can buy low. Maybe they're waiting for interest rates to go up. Maybe they're waiting for some economic indicator to align. But here's the problem. Nobody can predict the market consistently. Not professional fund managers, not economists, not financial analysts. If the experts can't do it, you won't be able to either. And while you're waiting for the perfect moment, you're once again losing time. The best time to start investing was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. The third reason, and this one is perhaps the most damaging, is that people pull their money out too early. They invest for 2 or 3 years, they see modest returns, and they get impatient. They think, I've had my money locked up for 3 years, and I've only made 15 or 20%. This isn't worth it. So they withdraw their money and either spend it or leave it sitting in a savings account. What they don't realize is that they've just reset their compounding clock to 0. All the groundwork they laid during those first few years is now gone. They've robbed themselves of the exponential growth phase that was just starting to build. Think of compounding like planting a tree. In the first few years, you water it, you take care of it, but you don't see much happening above the ground. The tree is small, it's not providing shade, it's not bearing fruit, but underground, the roots are spreading. The foundation is being built. If you give up after 3 years and cut down the tree because it's not impressive yet, you'll never see it grow into something massive. Compounding works the same way. The first decade is about building the foundation. The second decade is where you start seeing real growth. The third and fourth decades are where the magic happens. Let's look at a real-world example that illustrates this. Suppose you start investing at age 25 and you invest 10,000 rupees per month. That's 1,20,000 rupees per year. You do this consistently until you're 60 years old. That's 35 years of investing. You're investing a total of 42 lakh rupees over your lifetime. Now, if your investments generate an average annual return of 12%, which is reasonable for a diversified equity portfolio over the long term, how much do you think you'd have at age 60? Most people guess somewhere between 1 crore and 2 crores. They think, I'm putting in 42 lakhs, so maybe it doubles or triples, but the actual number is over 4 crore, 49 lakh rupees. Not 2 crores, not 3 crores, 4.5 crores. That's more than 10 times what you invested. And the reason it's so high is because of the 35 years of uninterrupted compounding. Now, let's say you waited until age 35 to start, but you still wanted to end up with the same 4 crore 49 lakh rupees by age 60. You'd only have 25 years to invest instead of 35. To reach the same goal, you'd need to invest not 10,000 rupees per month, but over 24,000 rupees per month. That's more than double. By waiting 10 years, you've made your task more than twice as hard. You have to save and invest more than twice as much every single month just to end up in the same place. This is the opportunity cost of delay. It's not just that you miss out on some returns. It's that you make your entire financial life significantly harder. You have to work more, save more, stress more, all because you didn't start when you had the chance. Now let's talk about the formula itself, because understanding the mechanics can help you optimize your approach. The compound interest formula is written like this: A equals P times 1 plus R divided by N, raised to the power of N times T. Let's break that down in plain language. A is the amount you'll have at the end. That's what we're trying to calculate. P is your principal, the amount you start with. R is the annual interest rate, expressed as a decimal. So 10% becomes 0.1. N is the number of times per year that interest is compounded. If it's compounded annually, N is 1. If it's compounded quarterly, N is 4. If it's compounded monthly, N is 12. And T is the number of years you're invested. The key thing to notice in this formula is that T, the time variable, is in the exponent. It's raised to a power. This is what creates the exponential growth. When you multiply by time, you get linear growth. When you raise something to the power of time, you get exponential growth. That's the difference between simple and compound interest. 1 multiplies, the other exponentiates. You can also use a compound interest calculator if you don't want to do the math manually. These calculators are available for free online, and they let you plug in different numbers to see how changes in your principal, your rate of return, or your time horizon affect your final amount. I'd encourage you to spend some time with one of these calculators. Play with the numbers, see what happens when you add 5 more years. See what happens when you increase your monthly investment by 2,000 rupees. See what happens when your returns go from 10% to 12%. This kind of experimentation helps you internalize the power of compounding in a way that just reading about it never can. Now, let's talk about how to harness this power in practical terms. There are 3 main strategies you need to follow if you want to maximize the benefits of compounding. The first strategy is to start as early as possible. We've already covered why this matters. The earlier you start, the more time your money has to compound. Even if you can only invest small amounts at first, start anyway. A 25-year-old investing 5,000 rupees a month will end up with far more wealth than a 35-year-old investing 15,000 rupees a month, assuming the same rate of return. Time beats money. The second strategy is to stay invested for as long as possible. This means resisting the urge to withdraw your money when markets drop, or when you see a short-term opportunity elsewhere, or when you just feel like you want access to cash. Every time you pull money out of your investments, you're interrupting the compounding process. You're cutting down the tree before it's fully grown. The most successful long-term investors are the ones who set up their investments and then largely forget about them for decades. They don't check their portfolio every day. They don't panic during downturns. They just let compounding do its work. The third strategy is to increase your investments over time. This is called stepping up your contributions. As your income grows, you should increase the amount you invest each month or each year. If you start by investing 10,000 rupees per month and then increase that by just 10% every year, the impact on your final wealth is enormous. By making your principal larger over time, you're giving compounding a bigger base to work with. This accelerates your wealth creation significantly. There's also a fourth strategy that often gets overlooked, and that's reinvesting your returns. If your investments pay dividends or interest, don't take that money out and spend it. Instead, reinvest it back into your portfolio. Let it become part of your principal so it can start generating its own returns. This is how you create compounding on top of compounding. It's how you turn good returns into extraordinary returns over time. Let me give you an example of reinvestment in action. Suppose you invest in a stock that pays a 4% annual dividend. If you take that dividend as cash every year and spend it, you're only benefiting from the stock's price appreciation. But if you reinvest that dividend by buying more shares, those new shares also start paying dividends, and then you reinvest those dividends to buy even more shares. Over time, the number of shares you own grows exponentially, not linearly. After 20 or 30 years, you might own 3 or 4 times as many shares as you started with, even though you never added any new money beyond your initial investment. That's the power of reinvesting returns. Now, I want to address a common question. What if you start late? What if you're already 35 or 40 or even 50, and you feel like you've missed the boat on compounding? Is it still worth starting? The answer is yes, absolutely. While it's true that starting late reduces the benefits of compounding, it doesn't eliminate them. You can still accumulate significant wealth if you're strategic about it. Here's how. First, invest larger amounts. Since you have less time, you need to compensate with more capital. If a 25-year-old can reach their goals by investing 10,000 rupees a month, you might need to invest 20 or 25,000 a month. It's more, but it's still achievable if you prioritize it. Second, choose investments with higher growth potential. When you're young, you can afford to be more conservative because you have time to recover from market downturns. But when you're starting later, you need to be more aggressive. This means allocating more of your portfolio to equities or other growth-oriented assets, assuming you can handle the risk. Higher returns will partially offset the lost time. Third, minimize withdrawals. When you have a shorter time horizon, every year counts even more. You can't afford to interrupt your compounding by pulling money out for non-essential expenses. Treat your investments as completely untouchable, except in genuine emergencies. Fourth, stay invested without interruption. This goes hand in hand with minimizing withdrawals. Don't try to time the market. Don't move your money around constantly. Just pick a solid, diversified portfolio and let it run. Consistency is even more important when you have less time. Even if you're starting at 40 and you only have 20 years until retirement, 20 years of compounding at 12% annual returns can still turn 1 lakh per year into over 72 lakh rupees. That's a meaningful retirement fund, built from relatively modest contributions. Is it as much as you'd have if you started at 25? No, but it's far more than you'd have if you never started at all. Here's something else to consider. Compounding doesn't stop when you retire. If you build a portfolio of 4 or 5 crores by the time you're 60, and you only withdraw 4 or 5% of that per year to cover your living expenses, the remaining 95% continues to compound. Over the next 20 or 30 years, that portfolio could easily grow to 7 or 8, or even 10 crores, even while you're withdrawing money from it. This is how generational wealth is built. You don't spend your principal, you live off the returns and let the principal keep growing. Let me share one more perspective that might shift how you think about this. Most people see investing as something they do to reach a specific financial goal. They want to save for a house, or for their child's education, or for retirement. And those are all valid goals. But the deeper purpose of investing isn't just to hit a target number. It's to give yourself options. It's to create financial freedom. It's to reach a point where you don't have to worry about money anymore, where you can make decisions based on what you want to do rather than what you can afford to do. Compounding is the tool that makes this possible. It's the mechanism by which a middle-class income can eventually produce wealthy outcomes. You don't need to be born rich. You don't need to win the lottery. You don't need to time the market perfectly or pick the next big stock. You just need to start early, stay consistent, reinvest your returns, and let time do the heavy lifting. But here's the catch. Compounding requires patience. It requires discipline. It requires you to delay gratification today for the promise of a much better tomorrow. And that's hard. We live in a world that constantly encourages us to spend now, enjoy now, live for the moment. Every advertisement, every social media post, every peer pressure situation pushes us toward consumption. Saving and investing feels boring by comparison. It feels like you're missing out. But the truth is the opposite. The people who are spending everything they earn are the ones who are missing out. They're missing out on the 8th wonder of the world. They're missing out on the one financial force that can truly change their lives. They're trading away decades of compounding for short-term pleasures that they won't even remember in a few years. Think about it this way.